Thank you. Come on. Come on, honey. Come on. Up here. Come on up here.
Hi there, Joy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you today?
Fine, thanks. How you doing?
Enjoying the rain.
Yes. Embrace it while we have it.
Yes, and the scrub oak are coming back after losing their leaves, so it's nice.
Did they already fall off this spring?
Well, they did that very first freeze we had, it killed all the leaves of the scrub oak all over.
Hmm.
And they're just now coming back finally. We were a little bit worried, but it was all over, so it wasn't just us. We have about 50 trees and lots of scrub oak.
Oh, wow.
Do you get as much bike riding when it's so rainy?
Well, I had some knee surgery recently, so I'm just back
Oh,
on the bike in the past
oh.
week. So nothing will keep me off my bike at this point. So yeah, I'm on my third ride of the day today to ride down here.
Well, that must be exciting for you because I know that you really do bike.
Yep, yep, yep. Thanks for your good wishes.
I got my fill of riding in the rain last week, a couple hours, and so I took the bus down here today, Joy. I wimped out.
Well, I think it's okay, Carl, because you don't get that much rain, so you might as well enjoy it and not be in it.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of hours riding in the rain and just gets dirty and you got to keep the chain lubed so it doesn't rust. There's a lot more
Yeah,
work,
used to get
and
mud all over my legs when I rode bikes. And then,
right? Yeah. And like you say, in Colorado, you just got to wait a day or so and get
yeah,
some.
it clears up. So
Joy, to your point, I agree. We have coats and jackets and everything, so the top half stays dry, but the legs,
I know.
that that and the shoes, it feels like the water just rolls straight down into my shoes if it's really.
I think so. You're always sort of just wet, no matter what you do.
I had to break out the Gore-Tex pants
All
for my
right.
today. They just go on over top, so that works fine. All right, welcome everybody. We're gonna get things rolling here. Welcome to the May 27th, 2026 Manitou Springs Mobility and Parking Board meeting. I am Chair Corey Sutella, and we're gonna start with a roll call. Do we have member Carl Stang?
Present.
Do we have member Rolf Jacobson?
Here.
Present online, thank you. Member Bill Kerner? Don't see Bill there. Did anyone hear from Bill? So Mr. Kerner's absent. Member Joy Porter
Here,
and member Luke Prince.
Present.
Great. So we do have quorum, so we'll get going. First up on our agenda is approval of the agenda. I think the agenda is mostly okay. There's a couple of little typos and we've got a commitment to, I'm making a commitment to tidy up the agenda a little bit for next month. There are some notes in here that maybe are notes that didn't need to make it actually in the agenda, but I think the agenda is okay as it is. Does anyone want to make approval of the motion to approve the agenda?
Corey, I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Luke.
Second.
Thank you, Carl. Any discussion about the agenda? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. If you approve, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 I see 2 hands online and the chair votes aye, so that passes unanimously. Next up, we will look at the approval of the minutes. The minutes are included in the packet. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes? I had a look through, I didn't see some. If not, I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes from the April 2026 meeting.
So Corey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair. So just a comment, not a change, but I noticed because I was absent last month, but I saw that there was discussion around the Mountain Metro summer-wide free fare or zero fare program. And I just wanted to clarify that that was a state grant that expired and was not renewed by the state legislature. And with the budget issues, obviously it did not get, didn't get reapproved. But in the interim, Mountain Metro did reinstate a summer student fare program. So students can purchase for $25 a card that allows them to ride unlimited rides during the summer months to get to jobs or whatever. So it's a really good program to kind of hopefully help supplement. And obviously the 3 being zero fare helps as well. And one final comment, I did hear that Mountain Metro is considering zero fare on another route. Of course, I can't remember. I think it was like the 4, but they're looking to build on the zero fare program. So just a clarification.
Thank you for that, Carl. I think maybe if you don't mind, we could just review those concepts when we get to the Mountain Metro update on this month's agenda. Unless you feel like we should revise last month's minutes. So I think the minutes reflect the discussion that was had. You're providing an update since last month. Would you be okay if we rolled that into the Mountain Metro update for this month?
Yeah, that's fine. I just, was in the minutes and just wanted to make sure that that got answered.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we will follow up on that. Yeah, right. It was in board correspondence, I think is when that came up, right?
It's under the Mountain Metro report section.
Well, either way, I think the minutes are accurate as written. And we'll revisit that when we get to Mountain Metro. With that, I would appreciate a motion to approve the minutes. Is anyone willing to make a motion to approve the April minutes?
I make a motion, Corey, to approve the minutes from April.
Thank you, Joy. And now looking for a second.
I'll second.
Yeah, Rolf. All right. Any further discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All members, please indicate your approval by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. You can still vote even though you weren't here, but you can also abstain if you'd like. Okay, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor and 1 abstention, so that passes. Back to the agenda. Okay, so now we have the opportunity for public comment on non-agenda items. We don't even have any chairs here. No one here in the audience. Is there anyone online that would like to make public comment? See anyone there, James? No? Okay, we're rocking and rolling. Moving on now to City Council Liaison Report featuring prominently this month. And Nate, sorry, we missed you on the agenda last month. So love to have your
Yeah,
council liaison.
No worries, always a privilege to be here. So I wanted to start obviously with just a moment and thought for the gentleman and visitor that passed away on the incline and the amazing kind of first responder effort. I think that was a moment, I think, for all of us in the city. And in addition, I wanted to pay special tribute to Memorial Day and the celebration. We're just west of Memorial Park, and we have a lot of veterans that live in our community, actually more than I was originally aware of. So thank you for the service to our country. Some milestone, a milestone for our community. You probably caught or at least heard about it with the LaFawn site winning the Affordable Housing Award. And so to contemplate, and our community having, 50 additional units that's accessible to educators and artists and entrepreneurs and to maintain occupational and socioeconomic diversity is a really, really important thing. And I think it's going to be the first step to a lot of good stuff in that regard over the next few years. And
Nate,
that was
can you confirm the details of that? I don't know all the details. Do you know who that comes from?
And can I share a little bit on that? Is that okay? Or would yeah. How far back do you just kind of the executive summary of it? So that it was a project that was really, I want to say, embraced by the URA. Many of you know Electra Johnson, who's the executive director, and an independent development company in conjunction with the URA purchased the property. The URA helped to remediate it. And so everyone's seen it now. It's sat empty for a while. And the idea with the developer was to create affordable housing. And on the first round with CHAFA, the state organization that helps support, the technical term is low income tax credit, to qualify for those, it was it was denied. And so on their second round, and Fred can expand on some of the details around density requirements and so forth. It was one of 14 cities around the state of Colorado that was awarded. And so it's a very, very competitive process. So it was a huge testament to the URA, huge testament to all of the work that the Housing Advisory Board's done the last 10 years, Fred and his team. But I think from a community's perspective, just for us to contemplate that we can maintain occupational diversity in the town is a huge win. Fred, do you want to add anything to that? Did I capture it pretty well? Please add.
Yeah, I think you did. I think you captured it pretty well. One thing that I thought was interesting is that they when they applied for it last year, they were denied. And I had heard when we were talking with the developers, they said it's actually typical or not unusual for a first-time applicant to be denied for LIHTC for Chafa funding, that you have to make a go of it a couple times before you actually get awarded. So from that perspective, I think it seems pretty good that they only had to apply twice before they got funding.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, what makes this unique and uncommon too is that the city put quite a big investment in it through the URA in conjunction with the developer. So it's just a case, a use case that we can all feel really, really good about. So it's getting a lot of press, and I think we're going to see more and more of it. And I think they're projected to break ground on it. I want to say in 6 months, 6 to 8 months, I think was the projected target. So stay tuned for that. And thanks Corey for asking to expand on that a little bit.
So Nate, and maybe more a question for Fred. So if folks are interested in seeing the plans and like, for example, I'm going, hey, is it going to be an acre of parking with a tiny footprint of building, like a lot of stuff in Colorado Springs, or will it be more balanced? And I forget where our minimum parking requirements are, or is it going to be like a parking podium, with parking and then the building on top? So just, if folks are interested in what it's going to look like, how do we find that or get involved?
Right now, I don't know if the URA would have some information or like a mock-up. There's some photographs and some visual renderings of what a concept plan looks like. And I don't know if those are publicly available or if they might be available through the URA. You might be able to find it on their website, but I'm not sure. When the city receives an when the city receives an application, we'll have it. It'll be available, and anybody can take a look at it with the city. Right now, we haven't seen the final plans, but the proposal is for up to 50 units. So that's pretty good. Let's see, we just changed our code to come into conformance with state requirements that does not permit a parking minimum for this type of housing development on Manitou Avenue. And so actually they're not subject to a minimum amount of parking unless the city provides a pretty solid justification why there should be parking provided on site.
And
so that'll all be reviewed during the application.
And on the June 9th work session, the hope is that Electra and someone from the Housing Advisory Board will be presenting a little bit more information around it. So please consider that. I think that's going to get approval.
So there's a work session June 9th and the URA will present about it. I guess what I'm wondering about for this board, is there going to be some kind of a process where, we might have a chance to weigh in on parking and mobility considerations for this? So I understand the proposal hasn't formally come to the planning department for the city yet. Is there a mechanism there where we might get to see it and help shape that?
I love that. I mean, I can facilitate an introduction with Electra. You know Electra, you have a relationship with Electra, or I would just suggest reach out to her
Okay.
directly. And
Maybe I'll do that.
I'm
See
sure
if-
she'd be very open.
Okay. Yeah, thank
I
you.
know she joined the Housing Advisory Board meeting last week and it gave a wonderful presentation. It was a great conversation.
Great.
Coffin races, you've probably heard a lot about this. It came out of, there was concern about the outlook for coffin races from a safety perspective, but the real central issue there is that we requested the city come back with a more generic event safety program and to synthesize best thinking from across other municipalities, et cetera, and how they think about the requirements to keep an event safe, and then how that would potentially cascade and touch different events within the city, whether that's Carnival or the Wine Fest or coffin races. So in that June 9th work session, the city's going to come back with their preliminary draft around what an event safety program may look like for the unique needs of our city. And the hope is that that will be informed by key stakeholders from the chamber to other municipalities, et cetera. Any questions on that?
I have many questions, but not for today.
Okay,
Not for,
Yeah,
not
so
in,
let's-
not wearing my map chair hat.
gotcha,
I'll save them for later.
got you. And I'm on speed dial, Chair Corey on that, in that regard. Open mic night. This is a new program of city council. Would encourage you all to join. It really started off well. We had our second open mic last night, and it's a really more informal setting than a traditional city council meeting. And there's good dialogue, discussion, feedback done in a very respectful way. And so the next one is June 23rd. Only other key highlights from a couple of prior city council sessions, a couple proclamations on human trafficking, historic preservation. We have 2 budget engagement meetings coming up on June 11th and June 13th. This is subsequent to the budget survey that went out. And so the results of those surveys, I'm sure, will be presented within those engagement meetings. And the response exceeded expectations. So that was great to see. And then I just wanted to postscript my report with, I just started as the council liaison with the Metro District Board. So I joined the first board meeting a couple of weeks ago. I know Rolf's on, and I just want to say it was a really good meeting, and I really appreciated, Chair Corey and Felipe joining the meeting as we look to work together and I always say the true north. I tend to think in 3-year spans is that if we could fast forward 3 years from now, that just people that come to the town have an amazing mobility experience. So that's sort of the true north. Thanks.
Great. Any questions for Nate? All right, we'll move right along and get into staff presentations. And first up, we've got Fred from the planning department, right? And going to talk a little bit about the proposed planning code changes. Take it away, Fred.
Okay, thank you very much. For the record, Fred Rolandhagen, Planning Director. And I apologize, I don't have any any visual aids or any physical things to hand out with this, because we're really at the beginning stages of this process. And so what I'm going to do is kind of go through the history of what we're talking about, what the purpose is, and where we are right now, and what's going to happen on into the future. And also a little bit about what happened at City Council meeting. We had an initial work session with City Council on May 12th. And City Council had asked us to reach out to the Metro District and to the MAPS board for some preliminary input and preliminary comments, if you have any. So let me talk about what we're talking about, and we can go from there. A little bit of history. This kind of began, I think it was last year, when the bathrooms were closed in the Wichita parking lot. They were closed down. City Council got, to my understanding, a fair amount of comment from members of the public about that, and that there was a problem with closing down those restrooms. They were widely used, and that there was a concern of not enough restrooms being available for the people who are in town, who come into town and park in our parking lots, in the Metro District's parking lots, and things like that. So that's kind of where this stemmed from. And the City Council had asked staff to look at the issue and identify, see if there were some solutions that could be that could be brought forward to city council. Notably, or one of the suggestions was, well, maybe we should consider requiring restroom facilities to be constructed if an entity was to put in a parking lot or wanted to construct a parking lot on its own on either a vacant piece of property or take an unused piece of property and demolish the buildings and put in a new parking lot. So that's where this idea came from, and what was from that closing of the Wichita lot restrooms. We put it on.
Can I just ask a question? Are those bathrooms still closed, or what's the status of those now?
No, those are open now.
Okay,
Yes, I'm not exactly sure. I'm not privy to how they got open or what happened, but to my understanding, they're open now and they're being used.
but there's at least a perception of an ongoing need for more restrooms in Manitou. Is that
Yeah, an ongoing need or a concern of maybe not enough restrooms. If we're going to be adding capacity or adding parking spaces or accommodating more parking in town, is that going to create more of a need for bathroom facilities? So that's what was communicated to me.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that's kind of the history. That's where it came from. We put it on our work list or things that we needed to do. Last year was very busy in the planning department. We were completing Plan Manitou 2.0. I was getting the stormwater code approved. The state we were getting some accessory dwelling unit regulations approved, which was mandated by the state. So we had a lot of projects going on. Didn't have a lot of time to work on this until now. And so this is a project that the planning department is working on now, in at least starting the conversation with city council and see where it goes to find a solution. Staff did a little bit of research for the initial work session that occurred on May 12th with City Council. I looked at, I surveyed a number of other communities in the state and a number of communities. I call them peer communities or communities with similar population and economy as Manitou. I also looked beyond the state of Colorado to see what I could find. And I can provide that information to you all, and I'm happy to do that. I'm sorry I didn't have that information tonight, but in a nutshell, I couldn't find a precedent for a mandatory requirement of bathroom facilities for standalone parking lots for somebody like a private party who wanted to come in and just build a parking lot to accommodate some kind of need. What I did find in a number of communities was two things. Number one, bathroom facilities are usually required or are required by the building code if a building is constructed that has a certain occupancy on that lot that a parking lot would be constructed, or if a parking facility is constructed that's going to be managed or going to have a certain occupancy level, staff who are going to be managing the parking lot. That's usually when restroom facilities are required by the building code. Number two, I found that certain communities will require bathroom facilities if somebody is proposing a parking lot specifically to provide access or to provide parking for a particular amenity, like a trailhead or an open space property or a shoreline. You see this requirement quite a bit along the coast of California, where parking lots are constructed to provide parking for access to the coast or to beaches. That's usually when restroom facilities are required. Other than that, I haven't seen other examples when communities actually require a restroom for a standalone parking lot.
And to clarify, so the two things I heard were, there's some places that have a bathroom required in the building code if it's going to be a constructed facility, and especially a staffed or managed, like a parking garage.
Mhm.
And do we have that in our building code?
Yeah, it's in the, I call it the UBC, or the I think it's called the Uniform Building Code. The Pikes Peak Regional Building Department administrates our building code. And so
Okay.
they've adopted the code series that would require that. Yeah.
Okay, so if there was a parking structure of that, it would be covered by the Pikes Peak Region Building Code and would require restrooms. And then the second one related to trailheads and shorelines, I bet we don't have that.
No, in town, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good recap. Thank you for asking that. So, so I brought this information to a work session with City Council and talked about it. And City Council was still concerned and wanted us to pursue some kind of a solution to assure that we had adequate bathroom facilities if additional parking capacity was going to be constructed be constructed in the future. One thing that I wanted to note, so the other thing that City Council had asked is, like I said before, is that we reach out to the MAPS board and the Metro District for any comments or any thoughts that you all might have on this endeavor. One thing that I did throw out, I want to note that I threw out to City Council was, maybe a potential solution would be, if a private developer, if somebody who's developing the parking lot is unable or maybe is not is unable to construct a restroom facility, maybe there's an opportunity for them to partner with a nearby private business or something like that to assure that bathroom facilities are open and accessible. That could be a potential option. So that's where we are right now. So no draft has been prepared. What I'm planned to do is bring any comments back to City Council at their work session on June 9th. I believe it's June 9th. I received some comment from the Metro District Board. I attended their meeting on May 13th. I guess in very, very short summary, they appeared to be receptive and were agreeable to having additional restroom facilities, but were concerned about the cost and concerned about imposing the cost on the developer or the person who's actually providing the parking. So that's fine. I'm going to provide that information back to City Council. Right now, this is where we are. We're in the information gathering mode. What I plan to do is provide this information, or what information I get, to City Council on June 9th, and probably provide some alternative solutions to them for them to consider, and then to provide direction or more direction back to staff as to where we go. So this is going to be on June 9th. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We'll have to find out what happens and then move forward. We may have enough information where we can prepare a draft regulation that would be heard by City Council sometime in July. We may, the City Council may ask us to do some more information or do some more public outreach. I'm not exactly sure. If we do a draft regulation, if we make a revision to Title 18, which is the Land Use and Development Code, then the planning commission will need to hold a public hearing and make a recommendation to city council. If a regulation is proposed in another title, then that would probably just go to city council for review and approval. I don't foresee a solution being in Title 17, which is the Historic Preservation Code. If we make any changes to Title 17, that would need to be heard by the Historic Preservation Commission first. But I don't foresee that happening. So, like I said, right now we're in the beginning stages. We're in research. We're in research collection mode, and I'm going to be compiling all of the information that I get for City Council on June 9th.
Great. Thank you, Fred.
I guess maybe with that, I don't know if there are any, if you have enough information or if there are any initial thoughts that you have at this time or that you would want the City Council to know.
Yeah, I've got some questions in mind, but I'll wait till the end. I see Carl's put his hand up that I saw first. I can't see the people online right now, but Joy and Rolf, get ready if you've got some questions. We'll start with Carl.
Thanks, Corey. So, Fred, I jotted down 3 questions. So the first question I had after listening to your discussion is, is Manitou Springs unique, right? We have a downtown with old buildings. A lot of them don't have public restrooms, or or they're small. There's not a lot of availability. And so is that almost similar to like a beach or a trailhead, right? It's an attraction. And, can we draw a corollary is just one thought that ran through my head. So, Manitou Springs to me feels very unique. And so does that then maybe apply with that precedent, one of the precedents that you mentioned? Question 1 of 3.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's what I had in my mind when I found what I found. If that were the case, I thought, well, maybe there is a precedent in other historic districts. I wasn't able to find that. I reached out directly to communities like Estes Park, Telluride, I believe Buena Vista, and did not see anything specific to that. In other words, something considering the city itself as a destination that needs more adequate parking and therefore would have a need for restroom facilities. I think if City Council wanted to come to that conclusion, they could and say, this is the way it is. We have a lack of restrooms. We need to find solution, and future parking areas need to be part of that solution.
Great, thank you. And I should have opened with a comment. Obviously, adding additional code and rules for developers is a big step and something we should take very seriously and proceed with caution. So these questions are more just boundary testing. So the second question I had is, can the city spin up, start, build, whatever word you want to phrase, a new parking lot and not provide public restrooms? Like, could we have opened the Dillon Mobility Hub without restrooms? I mean, obviously, it's a good thing to do. It's the right thing to do, that kind of thing. But is there any code or?
Well, the code today doesn't require it at all. So the answer today is no, it's not required.
Yeah, the code doesn't require it, but one thing, restroom facilities would have been required at Dillon because you have offices there. You have the parking and mobility offices there.
Yeah.
So you'd have to, at a minimum, provide restrooms through the building code when those buildings were renovated.
And so, yeah, from a code perspective, we treat a governmental entity and a developer the same, but yet can we maybe say that publicly we expect the city to provide public restrooms? Like, there would have been an uproar if we had opened, ignoring the parking office. There would have been an uproar if we'd opened the Dillon Mobility Hub and not had public restrooms. And so,
Yeah.
are we treating people the same is the only question I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing in our codes that would have required us to provide restroom facilities for the public, for the general public at Dillon. And that's, that's a commitment that the city council made, was to do that, as well as provide restroom facilities at Hiawatha. So.
Right. And then my final question is, again, if I'm a developer and I build this beautiful brand new parking lot and I don't provide public restrooms, and therefore all the neighboring businesses get inundated with users, like it's kind of like, going to the gas station and, using the restroom and not buying anything, right? Is that fair? Right. And that's not to say we should have code, but just if I was that neighboring business and, you get people traipsing in all day long just to use your restroom, I wouldn't probably be very happy as a business owner of having to maintain that. And so is that potentially a consideration?
I think potentially it is a consideration. I'm trying to think a little bit outside of the box of, what's the problem we're trying to solve, and what are different alternatives. If it's lack of restroom space in a certain area, it's like, okay, what are our alternatives for finding a solution to that? And that's why I thought, well, maybe one solution is some sort of a partnering up new parking lots with existing businesses or existing restroom facilities to make sure that they're available, or something like that.
Yeah, and is it truly us as the citizens having to fund additional public restrooms at like a nearby park or something because somebody opened a new business without restrooms?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you're kind of at some level implicitly subsidizing that development. But anyways, again, adding this as an ordinance and requirement is a huge deal, and I don't think we should take it lightly, and definitely proceed with caution is my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I see Luke's got his hand up, and Joy, I see you. So we'll go to you first online, Joy, and then we'll bounce back to the room here.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Corey. My viewpoint is a little bit different than the codes, but having experienced the porta potties at the incline and the embarrassment when we have people coming to our city and being subjected to that kind of health hazard and the cleanliness, all that kind of thing, it's not who we are in Manitou. I think there has to be something done so we don't end up that way. The same thing with Hiawatha. The reason we had to get a restroom is because of the same thing. Porta potties are not what our community should be signaling should be used by all of us. It just is an embarrassment. It's a terrible thing, and not all small communities, are able to do everything. But it's not a matter of who builds the restroom. It's how are we going to find a solution to it? Because at the Dillon, you have people driving in, they need restrooms. You have people at Smirchy, you need restrooms. I mean, it's whether they go to businesses or not, or purchase things, it's just the whole idea that we don't have restrooms for our tourists and our residents and our students and our bicyclists to have a place to use a restroom. It just, to me, is unconscionable to not plan for that kind of thing. Having experienced the porta potties in Manitou, it just isn't what we need to do as a community. And finding a solution is going to be a challenge, but I think we have to figure something out as people come into our community. The same thing when we have the races, the coffin races, where are people going to use the restrooms? How do we accommodate them? How do we accommodate events? What are we saying when we don't have accommodations? So I would say it's more than just looking at codes and developers and what are we going to do? It's like, what are we going to do? So that was my only comment. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Joy. And just let me probe that a little bit. So what I'm hearing is broad support for clean restrooms that represent who we are as a city. And what I didn't hear was specifically a comment about whether or not that should be tied to parking lots specifically.
Well, I would say you have to tie it to parking lots. If you have someone tear down their buildings and they're able to historically, and they put in a parking lot and there's no restroom facilities, where are the people that are parking there while the business is making money? Where are they to use accommodations? So it's parking lot, you know, we can't make our historic buildings suddenly have lots of restrooms, but we can accommodate and figure out what to do in parking lots.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, Luke.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciated the presentation and the information. Question I had is, if we're thoroughly differentiating between a free public restroom and a restroom in general, that's part of a business for customers only, because in my mind, those are two separate things. So just wanting to make sure that we all recognize that just across the street from or around the Wichita lot, right, we've got a few different restaurants, public library, a bar, if you count the American Legion. So all of these places have restrooms, but whether they're publicly available or not, that's a different question. But the thought that came up was the idea, so if I heard this correctly, if an entity wants to build a parking lot, but they don't have the funds, there's a possibility, or for whatever reasons, there's a possibility that they would partner with a local business to open up their restrooms in order to fulfill the requirement. And if the end goal is to have more restrooms, I feel as if we can take out the middleman tying it directly to parking lots and just go right to these entities and see if we can contract out use of their restrooms for public use, if we're following. So to tie it directly to, I'm just trying to untie what's tied just for sake of doing so. Because if the end goal is to have more restrooms, I see a lot of restrooms. And if somebody's gonna contract out to use those restrooms, I'm not entirely sure and convinced that it should be the parking lot entity doing that. So that's the first thought and question that I had. And then also, if this would be pertaining, like, what is the definition of parking lot? If somebody wants to have 2 spaces, private property, great location, and if they want to sell out those spots and add to our overall parking inventory that's publicly available, would they too be required to offer restroom space? And so I do think that there is a line to be drawn between what a parking lot is. Is it a lot of spaces? A lot of them, right? Like, what does that look like? And then also, just to call a spade, I don't know who else would be in the market of building restroom or building parking lots in Manitou Springs outside of the Metro District. So just to put that out there, I feel like this is a very called out thing to tie it to the one parking lot that we have kind of slated, which might be next to Tubby's Turnaround up on the west end of town. So that's the way I see it. And thank you, everybody.
Okay, Rolf, did you want to make any comment?
Yes, more bathrooms in general is a good idea to look into. It's not necessarily something you should possibly do because that's what businesses are here for also. People are not coming here for parking lots, they're coming here for the businesses. So they need to use the bathrooms because they're coming here for the businesses. So maybe requiring businesses to have open bathrooms to the public. It's the same concept that probably wouldn't work out very well at all. Second of all, so if a parking lot has a bathroom, is it going to be just restricted to people parking there? So if somebody walks by, we're going to have to monitor that and say, well, no, you're not parking, so you can't use this bathroom. So you go across the city, across the state, and across the country, parking lots are not tied to bathrooms. It's not a thing. It's just not a thing at all. I mean, all downtown Colorado Springs, there's not one bathroom tied to a parking lot. And so it's going up the wrong tree here. It's just that it's not, it's obviously a reason to increase bathroom. Is that a big problem in Manitou Springs? I don't know. Maybe we should do a study on that. Is that why people aren't coming to Manitou, is because of the bathroom situations? Because they can't go into a business or whatever? Well, that's not a parking lot's fault. That's the city's responsibilities or the business's responsibilities. So if a business opens up in Manitou and has a lot of people, are they going to be required to have a public bathroom? So it's just opening up a huge can of worms. Obviously, it is a roadblock to Metro from building their parking lot, because it would be a requirement that they probably would not be able to overcome. And I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea to expand parking up there, but it seems pretty obvious that this is trying to stop one particular entity from providing parking. Parking is needed in Manitou, obviously. I'm not for parking, unlimited parking at all, but we need more parking, and putting the requirement is going to have less. Exact same thing about having parking minimums for businesses. I mean, that's something that we trying to get away with. Now we're going to have, so we'd have more housing. Now we're going to have a parking bathroom. No, it doesn't make any sense at all. So I highly dubious of this situation.
Thank you, Rolf. So, yeah, my comments, I think, a lot of them have been kind of addressed. I think for me to sort of sum it up, I would see adding a requirement that an entity building a parking lot to be responsible for also building a restroom. It is unprecedented. We don't find any peer cities or really any place where that is the case. And so, as the chair of the Mobility and Parking Board, I'm concerned about adding an additional barrier to those who might be interested in providing more parking to our city. Especially, some of the questions that came up at the Metro District Board were, who's responsible for maintaining and operating. I think it was Rolf who just said, what if somebody didn't park there and is walking by? So then are they allowed to use the restroom? I heard the question of, do we need to do a study on restrooms? And I almost want to ask you that this is an impossible question, Fred, but how many public restrooms exist in Manitou today, and how many do we need, and how many do we need in 5 or 10 years? Has that analysis been done?
No, well, I don't know if it's been done before, but I do intend to provide some information to City Council about parking, number of parking spaces and number of bathroom facilities in a certain area, it may have to be throughout the whole city to see where we are and kind of provide a scatter diagram as to where they're all located for data information. Now, the question is, the next question is, what's the need, or how many are needed? I do not know how to come up with that answer at this time.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a hard question. Like, I think access to a restroom is a matter of public safety and human dignity. And we don't want a lack of bathrooms to be a barrier in our community. I agree, that's not who we are. I have also heard the concerns about providing too much access to public restrooms can lead to, illegal camping and other kinds of implications. And so that's a consideration that we maybe should make. But I think for me as a citizen, and, it's not, I have concerns about tying it directly to parking because of the implications it will have on parking development. As a citizen of Manitou, I think it's a really good question to ask. Where do we need restrooms, and how many do we need? And, and then, I really appreciate what Joy said is, a new parking facility is an obvious place where you might be able to do that. And I really agree with that idea. What I'd like to see is that we find a way that we can do that in a collaborative way with people that might be contemplating that. Because I don't believe it is purely the responsibility of someone building a parking lot to provide those restrooms. Just like Ralph said, people aren't coming here to park. They're coming here because they want to access trails and amenities and the beauty and the businesses. And, they're not coming here just because it's a great place to park. Even though we're getting better and better at our parking here. So those are some of the questions that I've got. Carly, you want to jump in?
Yeah, if you don't mind. So just one quick comment in case it's useful on how to calculate potential for number of restrooms. I mean, for events, we have some sort of requirement that they provide, porta potties or whatever based on attendees. And so how many people are downtown in a typical summer month? And do we have enough restrooms if it were considered an equivalent event? Might be just a rough starting point. I mean, for me, I just want to reiterate that I think the code requirement just feels wrong here, but yet it's a problem they want to solve. And I respect, Joy's point of, the whole dignity. And then Luke's point about, the west side and Schmitzny. I mean, there's not a lot of public restrooms over there. Soda Springs Park is like the nearest restrooms. Like if you're parking at Schmitzny and trying to go do Serpentine or Rainbow Falls, what kind of I'm not going to a business, so I don't have a business public restroom to use. What options do I have? And so I would like to throw out that I believe the city partnered with the Metro District to upgrade the restrooms at Wichita to make them ADA compliant. Maybe we can find yet another collaborative approach solution for that west side project, right? It just seems, community focused, oriented, collaborative, the right thing to do, and doesn't put a lot of other onerous restrictions on stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, we know that there's new ownership and potentially some development coming at Tubby's Turnaround. Is that a location where we might want to invest and find a partnership? To me, that makes more sense than tying it to a code requirement. And I guess I want to maybe just highlight once more the thing that Luke said. This seems very directed at one specific entity that is in the business of having parking lots. And that feels wrong to me. When I attended the Metro District meeting, the first they had heard of it was that morning, and they rushed to get it on their agenda and have some discussion about it. I heard broad support for the community and for a good visitor experience, but I heard a lot of concern about putting the burden of all of that onto the Metro District. To me, this feels like it's being targeted at the Metro District, and I'm glad you brought it up, Luke, because I've talked to some other community members since then, and that's the feeling that's being put forward also. So I think it's important that council understands and recognizes that, and I really would encourage council to try to approach the Metro District with a more collaborative approach. We're all in this together for the long run. And so how can we find some better ways that we can find solutions together and not have a solution that's being forced upon one entity in particular?
And just so you know, Corey, I would disagree with that statement. I don't believe as council's looking at this, I think they're looking at it as a all over Manitou Springs. And I think the Metro District and Manitou have had difficulties over the years on different issues. I don't believe this is one that they're targeting because they're looking at it throughout the whole community. And I think that just adds to the tension between two entities that I think are trying to work better together and puts it again in that very negative space. That'd be my comment on that.
Thank you, Joy.
Uh-huh.
All right. Any other comments or questions for Fred? I'll just say, really appreciate you coming here and sharing this with us. If this does get to a point where there's going to be an ordinance change or something changed in the code, I think it does have an impact on parking, and I would appreciate, if there was a chance to have some more dialogue about that. Really grateful for it being brought forward to us in the way that it was. So, thank you. And Nate, did you want to say something?
Do you think something like this warrants, the map board's been so good historically about putting together a formal letter that reflects the collective best thinking that's come out of this dialogue? And then you issue it to, I think, council, or do you like that idea? Does it feel like that's an appropriate path for this issue?
I guess I'm open to ideas on that. My thought right now is, Fred's here collecting information that's going to be taken back to a work session. We haven't actually seen any proposed ordinance, so I'd like to give, Fred and his team a chance to develop a proposal if they think it's appropriate, and to see where that goes from the June 9th meeting. If it looks like it's moving into something that will be a code change, an ordinance change, then I think that's the right time when we could roll our sleeves up and say, okay, as a board, this is our opinion about this. I think my feeling is that for today, we've provided some feedback. Fred, how does that land with you?
Yeah, I mean, I think either way is good. I've collected all this information and I will convey it all to the city council in a general way, and see what the city council wants to do with it, and what kind of guidance they want to provide as a result of it.
Okay. Do you think will that work, Nate? Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Okay. We'll keep on rolling with our agenda here. So next up, we've got staffing updates from Felipe.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so for updates, just have Adrian from the front desk. His last day is going to be on the 5th of the month. He's going to return back to his original duties, but other than that, everybody else remains in the same position and responsibilities, as far as that's concerned. James, do you want to add anything to that? Okay.
All right, next on the agenda is updates on the transportation grant. Did we get anything from Ben to give an update on timing on that?
So there wasn't anything formal, but I did attend a kickoff meeting today for the accelerator grant. It's going to be scheduled. We're going to have a monthly standing meeting, so I'll have more updates as the months come by. As you guys are aware of, there is an RFQ out there, RFP out there for engagement of consultants for this, and many other things for the city as well, and that's still in concurrency as well. So, but yeah, the kickoff was today, and that's pretty much the news on that.
I'm not sure I was aware the RFP was out. Is that a document you could share with our board?
It's a public document. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And you said there's going to be a monthly meeting on those. Would it be appropriate to have someone from the map board join those meetings?
I can ask.
Okay.
And come back to you with that.
Okay, so we'll find out about that and just put it out there to the members of the board. If we're allowed, I think it'd be really great to have a representative that could attend those meetings and come back and share information. So if you're interested, think it over and we can see where that goes.
Sounds good.
Into regular staff reports. I think you're up, James. You ready for Pike Ride?
Alrighty, so first up, we've got Pike Ride Report. Looks like we've kind of had some steady growth from last month to this month, but not much. It's about the same. And that's kind of the station breakdown, and I'd say the trends here remain fairly consistent as far as ridership. Where we've got kind of the same station seeing kind of the most ridership there. Any questions regarding Pike Ride? absolutely.
See, the big difference was in March from 25 to 26. I wonder, that seems kind of the outlier with starts and ends. What happened in 2025 that didn't happen in 2026 in March?
I
We
think
had Hiawatha open.
Oh, that's right. Good point. Thank you.
And we did see more rides in February 2026. And I think that's when Carnival was, right? So Carnival was in February in 2026 and was in March. So probably we had a whole lot of ridership related to Carnival potentially in 2025. But yeah, happy to see April. April, we're tracking year on year a little higher. Okay, should we keep rolling? Actually, one thing, and it was in the notes from last month. Did we get any kind of clarification from Pike Ride about the lots of the stations that are closed in Old Colorado City? Any operational update on that?
I don't think we've gotten anything from Tara on that specific point.
Okay. It seems to me that that's probably hurting our ridership, but it's hard to say for sure. So hopefully that'll be something that we can uncover. And just as I guess we're going to move on from Pike Ride, would like to share with the rest of the board that Felipe has been looking at the contract that Manitou Springs has with Pike Ride. It's up for renewal, and Felipe's done a whole lot of work to really try to improve that contract, to basically to try to work towards some shared goals and some metrics that we can use. I think all of us would like to see higher ridership, and so would Pike Ride. And a really good step towards that would be to get more concrete about some of the measurements, the metrics that we're looking at. So I've had a chance to work a little bit with Felipe on that, and hopefully we're getting closer to a improved contract with Pike Ride. So I think hopefully in the next couple of weeks, there'll be a meeting to discuss the changes to the contract.
Yes, and I'll provide an update on that once that happens. But yes, we're scheduled to have a chat about it. We're still discussing it, but yeah.
Great.
I draft
How
list
long are the term contracts?
1 year.
1 year, year by year.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
On to
Hey,
Mountain
Ro-
Metro ridership.
Can I interrupt one more time? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Luke.
For Pike Ride, we had, I forget when it was, but it was a while ago. Tara came in and gave a really nice update and presentation to our board. Is there a cadence that we want to get into as a board for her to outline some, and maybe it's annually or every other year, just some big updates for Pike Ride and what's happening from them?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's participating in the ecosystem for mobility should come at least once or twice a year. So that's definitely on point.
It's a really good point, Luke, and that's one of the improvements that we're looking at in the contract with them is to set some cadence for that.
So,
Carl.
Mr. Chair, so I thought in past history, like Tara came to the map board and presented this kind of the same presentation that then she took to council, which was part of the annual update to council. So it was kind of like vetting it, testing it with the map board first and then going to council. That's my recollection of how things have worked, but I could be wrong on that.
I think that has occurred. It's not a requirement in the contract, and I don't think that's scheduled right now. So that is something that we'd like to get a little more clarity on so that, it makes sense. There should be, whatever the interval is, a formal update to council, and just, before that would be a formal update to this board. So yeah, I think we're aligned there. And I'm sorry, Nate, did you have your hand up? Did you want to? No. Okay. All right, we'll keep rolling into Mountain Metro.
So biggest thing to note with Mountain Metro is significant ridership increase for the Route 3. Big part of that is the zero fare for that bus, but it is really nice to see that uptick. On this slide, I mean, you can see how much of a jump up we had. So Like we're hitting last year's June, July numbers almost in April, so I'll be interested to see how that goes for the rest of the year.
Is that because we had a warm, well, we didn't have that warm in April, did we? So I think you're right. I think the free aspect of it is probably driving more ridership, and that's a great trend.
Yeah.
And you can look at the results there to see that it's actually probably local people using it more because the numbers drop dramatically on the weekend. Manitou's a lot more busier on the weekend and the bus is less used on the weekend. So you can see that it's the locals using it, and it'd be nice if more visitors used the Route 3 to get into town, which they are not doing according to that last stat showing that the weekends dropping so much.
The,
Go
right
back to
now,
the other slide, you can
Route-
see that the weekends, they're not doing as well.
they also have half
Saturday.
the amount of ridership on weekends because they are at 30-minute increments still on Saturday, Sunday versus the 15-minute increments on weekdays. But while I have the mic, I will say that I think that these free Mountain Metro Route 3 route, that is single-handedly going to be one of the best things to happen for Manitou Springs as far as mobility and parking. Mark my words. Thank you.
So just make sure I understand that you're saying that the head times are twice as long on the weekends, which could account for a reduction on the weekends in usage. And, and Ralph, I heard your conclusion that more ridership during the weekdays indicates more usage from locals, which I really hope is true. Carl?
So just to build on Luke's comment, so yes, during the weekdays, the bus frequency is every 15 minutes. And I want to say personally, that's been huge. Like you used to have to like go and, hey, before I leave in time to get to the bus stop. And now it's like I just go down there because it's maximum 15 minutes and I can wait and jump on. So that's really cool. Also note that weekdays, they start at 6 a.m. and finish at 10. Whereas on Saturday, they start at 8 and finish at 6. And Sunday, they start at 9 and finish at 5. So it's a shorter window, less frequency on the weekends, which might be influencing some of the ridership, though. It would be curious, like Rolf indicated, to get a better feel for how much uptake there has been from locals.
And I think once we get into the peak of the tourist season, that'll kind of give us a better look at how that's being used, or if it's being used to commute between Colorado Springs and Manitou Springs. But in any case, more ridership on that at any time of the week is a positive sign, in my opinion.
This might be actually a good time to mention it. I think it was last week that Luke and I had an opportunity to join the chamber to talk about a new tourism initiative called Do Manitou Springs Right. It's part of a statewide initiative called Do Colorado Right. And it's basically, we've got a grant to try to improve knowledge of visitors about, what are the right ways to visit Manitou. And there was a discussion about this idea of, hey, you're coming to Manitou, a great way to do it is to jump, leave your car outside the city, jump on the free number 3, come in and enjoy Manitou Springs, and don't contribute to congestion and our parking challenges here. So hopefully that'll have an impact this season. Go ahead, Carl.
So sorry, one nitpick. Because I've heard it multiple times now, because words matter. I want us to be conscious and not say free, right? This comes at a cost. It's being paid by the Parking Enterprise Fund. So I think it's better for us as representatives to say zero fare, and just because free has different connotations. So just a minor correction, if I may.
Thanks for that reminder. The zero fare number 3. Perfect.
There was a thing that came out of that meeting, and I thought it was pretty clever. We're consistently, we as in the tourism here in Manitou Springs, trying to convey, do Manitou like a local. That's come out from Manitou or many communities throughout the state during this initiative. And a clever thing that came out of that was, well, how about we teach the locals how to do Manitou like a tourist? Because we are investing so many good ideas and resources and opportunities for how to develop a great experience in Manitou Springs. And so if the locals, everybody listening online right now, can do these things and do Manitou Springs like a tourist, it really does lend a light into the user experience both ways. So I just thought that was a pretty clever thing to come out of that. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for the little digression there, but we're all excited about increased ridership. Please continue,
Okay.
James.
Moving on to the C-Click Fix report. For our department, there were 10 total reported issues. Majority of these were vehicle complaints. However, we did receive a couple of other requests. One was to restripe the faded fire lane paint up on Minnehaha. And that has been added to kind of the overall striping plan that we're putting together now. So that's something that should be getting addressed here soon. As well as another issue regarding the fading of the motorcycle parking spaces downtown as well. And that will be getting addressed. So that's kind of it for C-Click Fix. I did take a look at some of the other departments, and there really wasn't anything in there that pertained to mobility and parking. Any questions on C-Click Fix?
Don't think so.
All right. And then finally, we have our call logs. In the month of April, we fielded 29 calls to 124 in-office visits. So things are starting to calm down call-wise for us, which is great. And the things that we are seeing being asked during those interactions are pretty consistent at this point. It's either citation questions or information regarding appeals, information regarding parking permits or the residential credits. And then, of course, we do get quite a few questions regarding the buses from people that are waiting to get on the bus. They'll pop in and ask about it, making sure they're in the right place and how often the bus runs, that sort of stuff. Any questions on those?
I do have a question, and it ties to the call logs and C-Click Fix. The Manitou Springs Police Department recently started the traffic complaint hotline. Are there any ways this is two-part question. Do we have any insight as to how many people are calling for traffic complaints? And, what was the second part of that? Didn't miss my mind, but do we have any way to wonder who's calling in or how many calls for that traffic complaint line? And would that count kind of as a C-Click Fix report?
I see the essence of the question, and I think we also would benefit from adding emails in here because a lot of these are via emails. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised that we have more emails than the in calls and then office visits recorded. And we can probably add to this on the next meeting for that with some subjects.
If that's not too much work, now you got to count emails.
They're in a repository. All we need to do is just from this date to this date, 203, and then just kind of select the scrub them out, and just that's pretty much it. So yeah.
Yeah, if that's something you can provide, I think it helps to eliminate the volume of work that the staff is undertaking.
Yeah, and like I said, I wouldn't be surprised that we have more emails than all of that. So that we're addressing daily.
Does that traffic complaint hotline, does that fall solely under the police department or is that anywhere in mobility and parking?
So we do have it's option 2. So if you call 685-2600 and just select option 2. That's our hotline. And so that's basically what it is for. And it's for enforcement of parking. So that's specifically the complaint side of it. So if somebody parked on a red residential area in front of somebody's house, things of that nature, those are the kinds of things that we address there.
So that's different than the recent one rolled out by the police department.
Yes, we're not tied in with them in that capacity at the moment.
Okay, I want to clarify just, there's a couple different complaint lines, right? And I just want to make sure that if somebody has a thought that they want to call the line, who to call. Like if it's solely parking, it's that hotline versus they saw a black sedan speeding, a different hotline. And I'm just still a little unclear what the traffic complaint hotline even means. I mean, what is a use case for that? Just because I saw it rolled out from the police department, just kind of curious, because I know we as in the parking board has already had a hotline. So I'm just kind of curious as to the angle that they have with their hotline.
Good question.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you. So just to piggyback on Luke's comment, so I believe, well, in the past, we've had the neighborhood traffic safety process. It's still on the city website, so neighbors can, the rough process, right, is neighbors can collect petitions within a certain block and request traffic calming, traffic safety improvements within their neighborhood. There was a number of requests that were submitted, and this is all kind of Roy Cheney timeframe, so before Felipe. And I believe we've asked for updates on that, and I'm not sure where that sits. And I actually wrote a note, like it feels like that might be a future agenda topic to get an update on that. But I asked that because, to Luke's point, that seems to overlap with like this traffic safety complaint hotline. And so getting clarification on what they're looking for or how those work together or don't work together or is completely separate and we don't understand would be a good clarification.
Yeah, and I believe the website addresses what option 2 is for, as far as description, because for those reasons, we didn't want people calling for the wrong reasons to the enforcement line on our end. So perhaps maybe the suggestion towards the enforcement for the police to have something similar. Is that?
Well, I think there's 3 things. I think there's the parking department has a line for parking issues and,
And that's
So-
2600 option 2.
yes. And then
Okay.
there's the new hotline that the police department stood up. And then there's also another section on the website. And like I said, it's this, Jeff Jones was the one who brought this together to council, right? Is this traffic safety calming neighborhood program, right? And it had some initial traction and it was kind of languished. And the main reason I bring it up and kind of continue to push that is, neighbors put a lot of effort into collecting petitions, the kind of like the RPP 50%, right? And getting consensus and present it to the city. And I feel like my perception and the few people I've talked to is they feel like they've kind of were left hanging and they did all this work. And so just, again, the optics of that look bad. And so how do we, show respect to the work that they put in and give them a reasonable response and
Carl,
closure.
So that, I remember that, and I think you were a representative on that board that hasn't met in a real long time.
Yes, I was
And that was
the
a-
BAP board
That was a
representative.
Public Works led initiative.
Yeah, so Dole Grabenik, so like Ben Schmidt, city engineer type involvement, Roy, the chief.
Police
and-
chief,
Yeah, so
Okay.
Chief Otto,
but who owned it? Was it Public Works?
I would say Public Works. Dole really was the one who drove it, and
Okay.
Roy.
So I will take an action to follow up with Ben and Public Works to find out what's going on with that.
And again, to Luke's point, to me, the police department complaint line feels potentially overlapping with that.
maybe it's a replacement for it, but what happened to all the
Maybe
work
it's a
that went
replacement,
into
yeah,
it?
and so there's some lack of clarity, and so if we can get clarity, I think that would be good, because if we're confused, I'm sure residents are confused.
All right. And yeah, maybe I'll start with the police chief, whom I think just got a new knee. So we got something to commiserate over. Great. Okay, a little diversion there. Let's keep moving. So next up, infrastructure updates. Boom.
All right, so starting at the top, as you all know, we now have parking meters that have been installed throughout town.
Actually, James, I'm sorry. I just saw on the agenda, we missed an item.
Ooh,
There's no slide for it. It's parking engagement meeting outcomes. And here is an error on our agenda. It says this will be handled by Corey, supported by Corey and Nate. I think, so this item is regarding, since we had our last map board meeting, there was a public meeting for parking engagement. And James and Felipe and myself and Nate were all there. And really it was a chance for a lot of discussion about, you know, for the public to come forward and to share concerns and suggestions and ideas about parking. I had to leave a little bit early, so I didn't get to hear all of it. But the comment I wanted to make was we heard a lot of feedback about there's a lot of frustration around parking, and I think that's really evident, and that's just something that we live with in Manitou, and we're all working hard to make that better. One thing that came through really clear to me is that we were having some hardware problems with the old kiosks, and that was like by at least 2 to 1 was the most common piece of feedback that I heard. And I'm just really happy to say that we're moving on from that hardware, and that's actually a you know, I love a good technical problem that has a solution, right? A lot of the things we deal with here, they're not technical problems. They're so hard to get your arms around. This is a technical problem, and we're implementing solutions on that. Nate or Felipe, did you want to share anything else with the board about that parking engagement meeting?
We listened, we are working towards a plan to the different aspects of that. That's just a big elephant right now that we're chewing piece by piece daily, and we will come back pretty soon to that. So that's the update on that. And then to your point on the hardware, we are with the 16 we have now, well-used workplace, we're doing better than when we had 36 or 43 in the past. So, and you can see it by the numbers, you can see it by the uses, and you can see it by the lack of complaints.
Yeah, so we got 16 in place and they're working.
Yes.
Yeah, which leads us right into this infrastructure update. So go ahead,
yeah,
James.
so with those meters, I mean, the old system, I would say a lot of the calls that we were getting were parking meter related or related to issues with the old pay by phone system. So really getting these things in place and working has made a night and day difference for us on that front. So I'm really excited that we finally got these things in place. It was a lot of work went into vetting these things and getting them configured properly and making sure that they do what the public expects them to do. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm proud of the work that we did. Along with that, as I'm sure you've also noticed, we redesigned and recreated all of the parking signs in town. We received a lot of feedback from the previous iteration of the signs that went out that were provided by Honk. And there were a lot of issues that stem from that. Primarily the sizing of the QR code. People had issues just simply scanning the QR code because it was too small. With the new design, they do pop a little bit more. They stand out. That QR code is nice and big. We've also added our contact phone number onto the sign. So if people do need help with payment. They are able to get that. That same phone number is also on all the parking meters as well. Overall, between the kiosks and the signage improvements, we've eliminated a lot of the calls that we were receiving. Felipe?
I will add to the update that it also has to do with the partnership we have, the working partnership with Blinky and Honk. Blinky being the kiosk portion of it, and Honk being the signs. Just for everybody's awareness, we did replace 315 signs out there for the whole city at no cost to the city. This was absorbed by the contractor, and in partnership, we moved forward in that direction. I just wanted to make everybody aware on that. And we do have a relationship up to 2030 with Honk, and a yearly renewal with Blink after 3 years. So this is a more long-term relationship.
With Blink A, we've also implemented a new LPR system that we are using and testing now. That's going to enable us to be more efficient, and our role really just allowing us to do more with less, so to speak. So it really enables our staff to be able to knock out the enforcement aspect in a more efficient way. It'll also allow us to gather more data on how our enforcement is going overall. Like, for example, we can get an idea on how many of these tickets that we're identifying we're able to capture throughout the day. And that can help us refine either our staffing levels, whether we need to increase or decrease our staffing levels at any given point. So just a lot of data can be gathered with the LPR system. And so we're excited to have that in place now. We currently have it installed on one vehicle with plans to add a second in the future. And Felipe, you want to add more?
Yeah, just to circle back on the RPL system. So it's not just the enforcement that's going to provide, although it does provide a heat map for us to know if we need to increase signage in the area, increase payment options in the area, more awareness in the area. So as we see these things, we can modify the terrain as well for awareness. And second, and very importantly, the system will do that nothing has been done before on is occupancy in real time. These cameras can go around town, check against payment, and then assess occupancy based on inventory on each zone. That's going to give us real-time occupancy, which we've never had before. And that's a treat to have as well. So because that will inform any rate changes, any sort of trajectories, any sort of daily movements by zone, by person, by spot. So we're excited about that.
And that's someone driving around in a car. Do they drive through parking lots?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm guessing they don't drive through the like Metro District or non-city parking lots.
Correct.
Okay. And is that the Subaru we've been talking about?
So the Explorer is the one that has the cameras right now. We're actually going to retrofit a third camera so we can get angle parking captured as well in there. That's in the works. And then the Subaru is in the shop, and we should be getting it here in the next month or two with a second set of cameras that we've already purchased. So we're going to have 2 of them.
And do I remember you saying you were going to get one that could go on a bicycle?
They can go on a bicycle, but that's a whole different other. But yes, I eventually would like some footprint on bicycles, but that's a different challenge I had. So
Okay, maybe
It's
for
a
future.
work in progress. So
Work in-
it's something they're actively developing. It's not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Does it monitor the turnover? So does it know the difference between a truck that was there and then next time you go around,
Yeah.
now it's a car?
Yeah, and it knows the difference between a resident, a permit holder, an employee, all of that stuff. Hand tags will not be needed anymore.
Directly off the license plate.
Yeah, and it's as easy as you do your prescribed route, and basically it sends it up to the 4 or 5 enforcement officers, and so that they all have a map in a zone they go to. And so now instead of you checking vehicle by vehicle, you just go directly to the vehicle, see the circumstance, and assess if it's going to be a go or no go, and move from there. So
Great. think I maybe just better note for the record, it looks like maybe Rolf has dropped off. Is that right, James?
It looks like he's still here. It looks
You
like
there,
he
Rolf?
just-
Hi, I'm still here, guys. I'm sorry, I just turned my camera off. I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. I couldn't see you on the screen, so thanks.
And if anybody has questions on the LPR, I'm happy to talk to you on the side or here. So it's exciting news in technology.
And then I think the last thing we had for infrastructure updates was Hiawatha Gardens. I know the current target completion date is end of July.
That's great. James, for those of us in the room, you handed out a map here of the RPP zones. Was that tied to a specific agenda item?
Not really. I mean, I know we're really just trying to improve just kind of the overall awareness on where and how many RPPs we currently manage. This is more or less just a start. The ultimate goal is to have ultimately an interactive map with inventory and this will include both residential and paid parking zones.
Yeah, I find it educational, so I'm grateful to have this. And I'll just ask, can we make sure that we get that sent out, especially to our members that are online? Make
Yeah.
sure everyone's got a chance to have a look at this.
Yes, this will be getting added to the packet.
Great.
So it'll be
Carl.
available.
Apologies if we can step back to Hiawatha Garden, and I don't know, probably not having been here, this isn't really a great question to ask, but do we know the completion end of July? Does that complete, or is that parking complete? I mean, and restrooms complete, or will the bike racks be there? Will the sidewalks be done? Landscaping? Because it
Like
feels
lockers?
like, well, what's your definition of done, right? I get that we probably are trying to open to, accommodate visitors, but just want to understand end of July if we could. Thank you.
So a portion of that question might go to Ben, but I think I can answer 80% of it at least. So as you guys know, it's been raining quite a bit. So the date has been pushed and pushed based on the rain, which is good. But then at the other end, we're having to delay that because paving does require to have dry and compacted soil for the parking lot to have the specifications completed. However, they are working through the weekends out there. So if he was delivered at 80% capacity, they wouldn't be able to complete on time. So basically, what they're doing is they're going to complete, hand over the keys, and that's what you see there as far as completion. So there should be a ribbon cutting ceremony once they pave. We should have a date there for the ceremony once that black tar is up. So.
And I do want to just make the clarification, this is completion of phase one. So there will be additional parts of the project that will need to be completed at later dates, but I don't know if there's any established time frame for those yet.
Thanks for that, James. I did want to just jump back. So under new signs, we've got the rezoning paid parking for improved reporting and data analysis. If I'm remembering this right from our agenda prep meeting, what we're trying to do is to break the city down into a lot more smaller zones, each of which eventually might have different parking rates. That's a potential outcome. It's not happening yet, but we're breaking down the city into more granular sections so that we can improve our reporting and data analysis. And just want to make sure I've got that right. And I'm excited about that and just want to make sure that the map board understands that that's what we're looking at here.
So the intent initially wouldn't be to modify rates in a microclimate environment, but it would be to, for example, if we have granular data on a block that has 10 spaces that's full already or at capacity, to not send people there if they have the ability through like an app like Parking Hero or look at our website. So for us to have the information of occupancy in real time and say, hey, there's better parking 2 blocks this way and things of that nature. So it's to basically manage The parking, not through monetarily means, but more to like, hey, just go Google Maps or anything like that in the future to be tied into, hey, park over here instead, or that kind of thing. So based on occupancy, but it will inform our decisions way better. And right now we're just gathering the information, and it is revealing. I mean, we've been using this for what, like 10 days, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
And it's revealing to see what these areas are actually telling us, and what we have out there as far as signage, as far as usage, things of that nature. And we can start providing some updates on these as well in the meetings. I hope to provide something next month. So we start seeing, okay, the 900 block is the heaviest, most congested. Second to that, Memorial Park is where most of the people park based on transactions. So we're gonna start sharing that information as we solidify a month in, one cycle, and then move through the busy season. So
Yeah, I think all kinds of things might be possible. And once we have the data, it'll lead us to some of those opportunities. So really excited about that, that new data analysis. Okay, let's keep moving.
And then next, we have a requested update for the Minnehaha and Ute Trail RPP expansion. So just to kind of go over the steps that we've taken up to this point, we brought it initially to the Mobility and Parking Board. And then we followed that up with a public engagement meeting. And then we brought it back to the Mobility Parking Board a second time. And throughout this process, we really didn't get any representation from residents that were in support of the program. We were really only hearing from folks that were in opposition. And due to that lack of support, we really weren't in a position to continue pursuing that expansion. Felipe's.
I will add to that when having these meetings, the request was dated as well also. So some of the people that were initially interested in this change were not able to attend or no longer living there, or, any of those scenarios, the interest wasn't there. So we did just follow up with it because it was in our queue, but I just wanted to make that clear that it was dated. And then it also informs us in the future as far as if somebody submits a request, what's the correct timeline for us to follow up and turn around and things of that nature, so years don't pass by before it gets to us. So
Thanks for that update. So I think that's the end of the requested updates. So next on the agenda here is just a review of our goals. So we've got the RFP concept around the bike ped plan. So we've just heard that RFP for the accelerator grant is out there. So we'll get that, and we will be sending that around to the board.
I want to clarify that the RFP that's out is for on-call engineering services for the city with multiple different facets to it.
Yes.
And it may or may not be tied to it. I'm not entirely sure of that, but
Okay.
It might be. I just don't have 100% on that.
So you're not sure if it specifically includes a bike and ped plan?
Correct, and it's because that's the selection has not, so there's 8 different people that they're being interviewed right now, and they may or may not have the capability to absorb that, and if they do, then it will, but if not, then a separate one will come. That's my understanding. So, because not
Okay.
everybody can do everything.
Okay. I'll just maybe say for the record, my understanding was that this bike and ped plan would be rolled into the accelerator program in some facet. So if we wind up with a contractor that's not able to do that, then we're gonna have to look at how we can address that.
Yeah, and I'm just being cautious. I believe that the intent is exactly what you said.
Okay. Well, we'll take a look at the RFP, and there may be some follow-up on that. So I think that's important for this board, right? There was funding allocated for that plan, and we were approved by council to move ahead with that. We diverted because we had the opportunity to apply for this grant and to use that funding for matching funds. We really want to make sure that that's included in here. So that's something that we'll be tracking. We're still on hold with a strategic session with the board and council. The next on here is the policy and onboarding manual, and I have to confess, I have not looked at that. I think what I need to do to move forward on that is to get that as a separate document, and I'm sorry, I haven't looked at that. Is anyone else on the board looked into our onboarding and policy manual for now, Carl?
Yeah, so I believe when that was first shared out, I went through that and provided feedback. The kind of the initial template was really solid. And there was just a few kind of tweaks specific to the map board, like training or recommended reading kind of things, questions. So I think that might be further along than we think, but it would be good to get more eyes on it and input and feedback.
Okay,
Obviously.
I'll make a point of making sure that gets sent around again too, so we can take that to the next step. And I don't think we've got any action now on the RPP program itself.
So the only thing we're doing at this particular point in time is, as you see on the map, you're creating the interactive GIS map that's going to inform us better. That's basically going to capture, as James mentioned, addresses, what the capabilities of the addresses are to park vehicles and things of that nature. So there's just basically an internal survey going on, but the final product should look very familiar to everybody, where they go to the website, they hover on the map, they know where they live, they put their address, and they see what permits are available or not based on their specific circumstances. And then if there's any changes to be made, then go from there. But that's where we're at right now. And then redefining the 2013 one with the input that we have for a broader presentation later in the year.
Okay. So we've got no voting items on our agenda, so we're at the lovely time for board correspondence. Let's start online. Joy, do you have anything you want to bring forward? Comments or anything to share in board correspondence?
No, I don't. And thanks for asking. No, I don't at this time.
Okay. Rolf, anything you want to bring up?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay. How about here in the room? Carl's got his hand up. Go ahead.
So just kind of one comment. I want to say kudos to the city and most likely CDOT. The traffic lane restriping at Manitou Avenue and US 24 was well overdue, and I think that really the implementation benefits all users of that congested space to interact more safely. And so just a word of thanks to getting that done. So
Yeah, Carl, and it was interesting because we were working on that, and thankfully we do have a very good relationship with CDOT. Ben, our city engineer, is very well connected with them and made him aware of our circumstance. And so instead of putting the 1-year solution, they put the 15-year solution there, or the $50,000 in inlaid, which was fantastic, instead of just spraying it. So yeah.
Great. Luke, anything you want to bring forward?
Yeah, more bus stops in downtown Manitou. There was presentation to City Council from Mountain Metro about what that looks like this season. So happy that I was able to, it was a few months ago, but was able to attend a meeting between Felipe's office and Mountain Metro where those bus stops were talked about, and I have a better understanding about what it entails. And so does City Council. That same presentation was presented to City Council, where a lot of members were privy and had their own concerns about the lack of bus stops in downtown Manitou Avenue. But just putting my thought forth of continued effort to return some of those stops, I would love to see it. And along those same lines, and a more easily accessible fruit on that same tree, is making all Mountain Metro bus stops servicing all buses that pass by it. So meaning Chamber of Commerce, there's a bus stop there, but it serves only one or the other, Route 33 or Route 3, but not both. And just the other day, I saw somebody like giving their hands up in the air like, oh man, why did that bus just pass me? So just making sure that those low-hanging fruits are attainable. Next topic of discussion for me is Rainbow Falls is opening this weekend. And so that's going to be an impactful thing on the west side of Manitou Springs, particularly for the for the neighborhood that just said no to the RPP. So I'm hoping that things go smoothly in our collaborative effort with El Paso County. And I do see that they're going to be offering the $20 shuttles from Higginbotham down Serpentine to Rainbow Falls. So that'll be reinstated this year. I don't think that was there in the first year Rainbow Falls reopened, which in part probably was a large impact on Minnehaha area. So that part, in part, probably has something to do with the lack of cars parking in that neighborhood. So happy to see that's a collaborative effort, not only the county, but Adventures Out West on the west side of Manitou Avenue. My comment on that area would be that there's currently signage along Serpentine that says no pedestrian access. So I don't like that. I think pedestrians should be in the streets, go play in the streets, take over these streets. So we should allow walking distance, even though, you know, I understand it's a very sharp hairpin, blind corner, whatever, to deny access to that attraction without, yeah, denying access is silly. So anyway, I would love to see those signs taken down. I want pedestrian access to Rainbow Falls. And then one last piece of feedback. I'm sorry, Carl, I'm just gonna go right through it. There's a temporary one-way street on Lover's Lane behind the loft. That's been there since the reopening of Lover's Lane from that rock fall that was back there. My personal feedback is that we should not be one-waying streets that don't need one-ways. I think that it is useful to have the ability to go west and east on that Lover's Lane part. Particularly what it does is it allows people to circle back without needing to go all the way around, park up near Tubby's turnaround, and then ultimately down through Manitou Avenue when they can just do a quick turn outside of that zone. If anybody's following, that makes sense to me. So those are my comments. Thank you, Chair, and thanks everybody for a good meeting.
On that comment, do you know, Felipe, why that section of Lover's Lane is a one-way only? Or are you able to comment today?
I'm not.
Okay. Carl?
So I just wanted to comment on, piggyback on Luke's comment about Rainbow Falls and that section that's pedestrian only. I was trying to look it up, but I didn't pull it up quickly. So my understanding and what I've heard previously is that section of Serpentine Road above Rainbow Falls is managed and owned by the county. And so that's a county sign and not a city of Manitou Springs sign. So if,
Does that seem right? It's a county road above the hairpin on
Ye-
Serpentine up to Higginbotham?
I believe
sure.
that's the case. And I know that some things have been done by the city in coordination with El Paso County to kind of address certain things, but in terms of pedestrian traffic, at least my position on it is to not encourage pedestrian traffic if it's not safe for that. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing infrastructure put in place to enable that in the area, but I wouldn't encourage it unless it's safe to do so. And in its current safe, I would not say it's safe to do that. And to kind of touch on the changes that were made to visitors, for visitors of the attraction, the addition of that shuttle program from Higginbotham made a night and day difference. It was messy in that area, and we'd get calls all the time for people parking in the roadway, in the fire lanes along the roadway, which created a lot of issues of their own, such as greater erosion on the sides of the roadway. And a lot of that vegetation has regrown, and a lot of those issues have kind of lessened. But just that shuttle has really made a big impact to the surrounding areas. We got less complaints from Minnehaha. Dorothy Early, the person that had originally started the petition for the Minnehaha RPP had noted the reduced traffic on her street after they implemented it. So I'm happy it's continuing. I hope it continues, because it really does make a big difference up there.
And that is a private shuttle, right?
Is,
With
so it
Ventures
is,
Out West?
so it's the Ventures Out West, and El Paso County is coordinating that effort. And I know that currently, if you go online to reserve parking, because you can't get into the park unless you have reservation, and that includes the parking as well as the shuttle. So it's kind of all tied together, which is what's helped it be as successful as it is.
Okay, thanks for that additional information.
I do want to say, I do believe you can still access Rainbow Falls. It is a free attraction. While it is highly recommended that the shuttle and the parking are included, it is still and remains, and in my hope will always remain, a free attraction. Hence my want and yearn to make it accessible for the general public without needing the shuttle. I do still see the shuttle is a great thing, and parking out of town, great thing. But I do want to highlight that it is and still should be free.
Hey, there's a lot wrapped up in that one.
So
Carl?
just real quick, so I did pull up the county assessor's website and it shows Manitou Springs property ending just before the hairpin. And obviously
Below.
Rainbow Falls is a county park. And so that upper section adjacent to Highway 24 is county/state CDOT domain. And so that ties in with previous, what I've heard is that the county is the one that put that sign up saying no pedestrians in that section. So take it up with your local county representative,
All
county
right,
commissioner.
that might be a topic for a non-map meeting. Okay, the only correspondence I wanted to share is I have received some interest from, I think, 3 different community members that are interested in joining the map board. By the requirements of our, the city's requirements, those people would have to attend a meeting, at least one meeting, and then submit an application to be part of the board. My thought was we could additionally be welcoming for more members. I think it'd be great to have more voices on this board. And what I'm interested in offering, it wouldn't be a requirement, but if anyone is interested in joining this board, yes, they'd have to follow the city's requirements. And it might be nice also if 1 or 2 members of the board wanted to sit down with them and to just learn more about their interest and, to be in a position to say, hey, I met with this person. Ultimately, our board does have, we can make a recommendation to council about someone who wants to join. So my hope is we could give the opportunity to potential members that they could meet with, not 3, because that would be a sunshine law violation, but 1 or 2 of the members to learn a bit more about it and to just form a connection that way. So if there's interest in that, I would like to make that available to the entire board. If people are interested in being part of that, please let me know. And Carl, I see you have a comment about it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think having an initial meeting with folks is good to set expectations of, some people probably think like, oh, it's like being on council, or, like, oh, but we only have recommendation power or authority, whatever you want to say. And so just setting expectations of what the board's capacity is and time commitment will set everybody up for success. And I fully agree with you as well. Having additional voices on the board would be a great thing. So I'd be willing to assist.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think you're right. I think it would be helpful, but I don't want to imply that it's a requirement, but I would make that offer, and thanks for being willing to be part of that. Okay, with that, are there any other comments? And if not, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
With that, I think we stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.